Hello everybody, my name is CulBlu and I'm bringing out this video of me talking about some board game stuff, and today we're going to be doing talking about some stuff, some accessories. This one's going to be specifically a follow-up to my Gamegenic Token Silo XL, or Token Silo, the first one. There's somebody who asked for a video for me to do a follow-up video a long time ago. And I just never got around to it. So I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and just do this video so we can get out of the way. So let me go ahead and get our background music started here, because you know I love my background music there. And there we go. Yeah, nice and mood setting there. Nice and mood setting music. All right, so as far as the Gamegenic Token Silo XL, this is the Gamegenic Token Silo XL. And the primary claim to fame for the Gamegenic Token Silo stuff is that it's something that you can use to kind of hold on to your stuff. It has removable trays and all kinds of fun stuff. So first and foremost, here's the Gamegenic Token Silo, the original, the first one. I had to, this came from my Star Wars Imperial Assault box because I did not have a spare one floating around. But this one is the original one, and sorry for the glare, sorry for the reflection, I mean. But as you can see, the Gamegenic Token Silo XL is essentially just two of these kind of tacked to each other. I think it's exactly two of these tacked to each other. So if you look at the compartment spaces, if I'm breaking this up into just these individual ones, this one has 4 grids of 4, so 16. And it looks like this is 1, 2, 3. Well, maybe not. Hold on. No, so this is actually slightly smaller. Sorry, physically, this is about 2 Gamegenic. Let me get another one over here. Sorry, I got some stuff prepared off to the side to kind of bring in for the comparisons, but I just want to see how many of these this is actually. Pull this one out from Pirates of Maricopa. There we go. Oh no, okay, all right. Well, I was wrong. So this is actually not the same length as 2 of these. Where does this go? Okay, sure. This is actually not exactly 2 lengths of these, the XL I mean. So if I put 2 of these Gamegenic Token Silos originals, or the original ones, and put the XL on top of it, you can see like there's a little bit there. It's a little bit there. It's a little bit hard to see from that angle, but you can kind of see that there's a little bit left there. So, all right. Well, my original statement that I was going to make was that this is essentially just 2 Gamegenic Token Silos next to each other, but that is factually incorrect. That is actually very incorrect. So this can do 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So is that 3 by 5? So 15. So 30. This can do 30, and this can do 16, which makes sense. It sounds like about the size change there. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm glad I did this video now, because I just assumed that this was just double that. Okay. All right. Sorry. Let me get these Gamegenic Token Silo originals out of the way. And let's go and talk about the XL a little bit more before I start going into storage and everything. So this is the Gamegenic Token Silo XL, as I kept saying before. It gives you the ability to kind of take off the top, go on the bottom like that, and go into there, go into the sides. Oh, I want to say that this video is not sponsored. I'm not sponsored by Gamegenic. I'm purely doing this video because I've been using these Gamegenic token silos for a while, and I feel like this is a reasonable time to go ahead and talk about this one. And this is the default configuration, but these are not the default pieces that it comes with. What I mean by that is that this one is the yellow one, and I couldn't find all the yellow bits and bobs. I don't know where they are. So I just kind of filled it in with things that are the correct size. I looked at the picture and everything. But they do have their little compartments here that you can take out, and these are pretty decent compartments. Nice, I wouldn't say hard plastic, but you know, if I squeeze on this, you can kind of see the little bit of flex in there. So they're not like super hard plastic, but they are not like rubber material or something like that. And all the compartments can come out. The Gamegenic Token Silo XL comes with this really long one, and I want to make a comment about this one. I'll save the comment for later because I want to continue the tour of this product first, and then I'll talk about my feelings and stuff. My feeling is not very positive. Let me just say that off the front. And yeah, so these are the compartments it comes with, and it gives you this variety of stuff. The main claim to fame for these ones is that instead of giving you just 4 of the long ones, because if you look at the Gamegenic Token Silo original, it came with 4 of the long ones and 4 of the small ones and 1 large one. This one comes with 2 of the long ones and 2 these are Euro size, I think is the official sizing for those ones. and then you get 8 of the small ones here. So, and then 2 of the large ones, and then you get this really long one. Now that we've kind of gone over like what's in it, I mean, that's pretty much all there is to talk about what's in it. Let's go and talk about the effectiveness and usefulness. So as I mentioned before, I've been using the Gamegenic Token Silos for a while. I will say that the Gamegenic Token Silo XL is very, very difficult to use in boxes, mainly because a lot of board game boxes aren't as long as this one is. And I'll give some examples as to where I have used this in a board game storage solution. And I'll get to that shortly, but I just want to talk about like just some of the practical things. So it's pretty long. Also, this is a pretty wide and big. This is actually very nice for a dice tray. It is very loud if you do roll dice into it though, because it's going to be plastic on plastic. So if I take some D6s, sorry, those were spin down counters. If I take some actual D6s and roll them, I mean, you can kind of just roll it in there, throw your dice in there, and it'll do its thing. So that's pretty nice. And the other part that I think is pretty cool is that the tray, the top kind of snaps onto the bottom. That's really nice. I sometimes forget that the Gamegenic Token Silos can do that. But it's really nice for kind of getting out of the way, because it is very strange how this always happens. But when I'm kind of setting up and doing a board game thing and like the top is not clipped to the bottom of this, it's like always in the way. It's just always in the way. I don't know how, it just always ends up in the way. So the fact that you can kind of tuck it under and get it out of the way is pretty nice. But anyway, going back on to a few other things, this really long tray is I don't know what use I could have for this. I mean, first and foremost, I mentioned before the Gamegenic Token Silo XL itself is pretty sizable. And because of that sizableness, it ends up not working for a lot of board game storage solutions. And I promise I'll bring a few of those in a second. And the second part is that this very long tray, it's kind of a situational use. Like I mean, first and foremost, I can only use this in XL. So I cannot use this in the original Gamegenic Token Silos. So this is a kind of a one-use situation. And secondly, the very long size of this is kind of thin and long. This is good if you have like a bunch of tiles, like I'm thinking like Clans of Caledonia maybe, where you have contract tiles that you're kind of setting here. That could work. Or if you have just like a bunch of coins, you can use this as a bank maybe. But the very long tray I don't see as super ultra useful. So I would have much rather have the equivalent length that this would have been of just more of these, because this would have been much more useful for me. Or just 3 of these, because that would have been much more useful to me personally. But you know, it is what it is. You can kind of mix and match these. It's not like you're stuck with only using the bits and bobs they give you. But it's just, if you're looking for a value proposition, the value proposition kind of loses a little bit, because I think that this long tray itself, while nice and cool in the idea space, is not as useful as it might seem. Okay, cool. So let's go and answer the question that nobody has asked yet, but I will ask it now, of what storage solutions has this actually found itself in my board game collection? Well, I can tell you, of all the board games that I have, the Gamegenic Token Silo Original has ended up in a lot of board game boxes for me for storage solutions. And when I say a lot, I mean 10 plus. So that means I bought this 10 plus times. Sorry, I guess I'm counting the trays, not the actual storage solutions, but anyway, that's not the point. But for the Gamegenic Token Silo XL, because of the size of it, it's only really ended up in 2 board game boxes for me for a final storage solution. And that's a little bit sad because of the limitation. Again, the long size of this is very not good for boxes. So let me go ahead and bring up an example. First and foremost, I'll bring up this board game, Pirates of Maricopa. Pirates of Maricopa is actually using the Gamegenic Token Silo Original, which is this one here, and it fits right there. You can see here, like this size fits just perfectly in the box right there, and I got all the bits and pieces in there. And you know, I can kind of fit that and fit this here. So the reason why I'm bringing up this box is not to show off that the Gamegenic Token Silo Original fits inside of it, but to show the problem I was referring to. So you can see the size of this is just barely too big to fit in the Pirates of Maricopa box. And you can kind of see it there. Just keep in mind that the top of the box is bigger than the bottom of the box. So just to give a practical demo, since I'm all here and it's not going to be that disruptive to do this with this game at least. If I take everything out of this box, and I do not have the expansion in here. I actually need to get the expansion for this game because I do like this game. I play a lot on Board Game Arena, or played it a lot on Board Game Arena, but I haven't played it a lot in person. So I've been holding off on getting the Commanders, I think is what it's called, the Commanders expansion. But I heard people say that it's really good, so I'm looking forward to that for Pirates of Maricopa. All right, so here's it kind of closed up, and as you can see, like it's just barely, like it's just barely not getting there. I'll try to give it the best chance here by going sideways. It looks like, I mean, if I want to stretch the box out a little bit, I can. Like that's a no-go for me. So that's just me kind of showing like the unfortunate circumstance that this box ends up in. And I feel like Gamegenic probably didn't make this exactly two Gamegenic Token Silo originals, or the small ones, side by side, mainly because of the box size issue. And I feel like at that point, oh man, it's such a hard sell, because if they got rid of like one column, so if they got rid of one column of these, so instead of having 30, it will have 25, then maybe this would be kind of justified. But even then, that's hard to justify, because you're going from 16 to 25. It's going to be the extra cost. Oh, I forgot to mention, this price-wise is about $15 USD. Or at least that's where I can find it from my friendly local game stores consistently. And this is $30, or more like $28 or so. So this is basically double the price of the smaller one. And the only benefit that you get for this one is that you get the long tray, and you kind of get everything in just one container, which could be good, could be bad, but tends to be bad in most situations. So let me go ahead and put this back together, and then we'll move on to the boxes that I actually do have this stored in. I just want to show the situation because this is kind of my main complaint about the Gamegenic Token Silo XLs, is that I'm glad it can store more stuff, but for trying to put it back in the original box, it's almost always a non-starter. Especially if I want to put things like deck boxes and stuff inside of there, which is yeah, a little bit more difficult, and this is more space in the box for me to stretch out in. So there's Pirates of Maricopa, so let's put that back to the side. So like I said, let's go ahead and bring out some games where I actually have used the Gamegenic Token Silo in, or Gamegenic Token Silo XL in. And that would be, first of all, of course, Steller Horizons 2. Oh my gosh. Sorry, that was heavier than I was expecting. Steller Horizons 2. If you watch my unboxing video, or I guess my mid-review video of this, you'll have seen it. You'll see what I did with this one. I kind of went the custom, like I have spent too much money on this route. I have a lot of the bits and bobs stored inside of these trays, which these are from Cube for Me. These are Cube for Me chit trays. I don't know the official name. These are actually double trays, but I cut them in half. So I physically cut them in half because it was a little bit too wide to fit in there. And then I kind of doubled up on using them. So not the prettiest way to use these trays, but these trays I think are about like $6 a piece for a double, or I guess 4 quadrants of a tray. Sorry, this video is not about this one, but I just wanted to explain what this was, because some people might be looking and say, ooh, what's that? Can you tell me more? I'll just show this real fast. Essentially, this allows you to kind of have games with like chits and counters, and you can kind of have all your chits and counters ready to go. You can see there's a stack of 7 of these, which is why there's so many. And there's an empty one on top, and there's a rubber band goes here. Okay, cool. I just want to talk about this just in case anybody wants to know. If you want the link for this one, please let me know. I'm not going to put it in the original description because I want to keep this about the Gamegenic Token Silo XL. But let me get through all these bags. Oh my gosh. And there it is. There's the beautiful Gamegenic Token Silo XL. And one thing that you'll notice with this one is that this one has a whole bunch of different colors and shapes. And one thing you'll see absent from this one is that there is no super ultra long one down here. So first and foremost, I have a lot of Gamegenic Token Silos in general. So as a result, I kind of found all the colors that I needed to kind of mix and match. So what I mean by that is that every faction has its own set of colors. So this is a little bit out of order here because I was just kind of throwing everything in the box, if I recall, to kind of consolidate and not use 2, but just use 1 to get it to fit in the box better. But, okay, maybe it's not color coordinated anymore. Oh, I know what happened. Yeah. Sorry, I know what happened. So it was color coordinated previously. Again, if you go watch my older video that I had, it was color coordinated. But because I had these, because I ended up having these, I ended up removing one of the Gamegenic Token Silo XLs because I had 2 of them in here, if I'm not mistaken. And I consolidated everything. Okay, never mind. All right, anyway. The point I was trying to get at though is that I'm using these containers to kind of show this is the blue players, this is the red players, the green players, the purple players, yellow players, so on and so forth. So that is what I was trying to point out. There's also the coins inside of here. There's also little chits that you use for different research and influence. There's the pieces that you use for your flying, your planets that you add in later, your dice, and all the other bits and bobs that you would need inside of here. So this one ends up working out perfectly for Steller Horizons 2 because of the storage solution that I ended up settling with, which in this case was a single Gamegenic Token Silo XL. Remember, I used to have 2 of these. Actually, I think I used to have 1 of these and a single Gamegenic Token Silo. Man, I don't remember. Okay, sorry. I completely forgot that I because I did this, I didn't need to have 1 full dedicated tray to the chits for the ships, the chits for your victory point markers, or your technology markers, I should say, and your chits for your bigger ships. So I forgot about that, so it's my fault for forgetting about that. But the whole point I'm trying to bring up is that this box fits it, and this box is pretty huge, as you saw, and it fits it pretty snugly. And that is the reason why this one worked out. And I do like using it. I haven't played this game a ton, but I do like using it whenever I do try to get this game to the table for like a quick run or something, or just trying to refresh the rules, or if I want to mess around in space or something. It allows me to do that. Did that wrong. And let me put all this back. And the other game that I have used the Gamegenic Token Silo XL for is going to be brought up here in a second, and that game is going to be Freedom. And that's because, once again, the box for Freedom is large enough to actually fit the Gamegenic Token Silo XL. And that is one of the biggest limitations for that. Before I bring Freedom on, I do also want to point out another thing, is that for games that have boxes that are large like this, there's typically going to be some kind of storage solution. For this one, for Steller Horizons 2, there really wasn't a storage solution built in. It was just an empty box with stuff flying around inside of it. If I recall correctly. Yeah, I think that's what it was, just an empty box with stuff in it. And I was able to kind of find my own storage solution and work with it. But for a war game like this, and this game is pretty war adjacent, I should say. It's not really fully a war game. It's like a war adjacent game. You usually would use kind of the cube for me trays that I have in there, the chit counter trays that I have, instead of like a Gamegenic Token Silo XL. So again, it kind of loses its purpose in that case, in that regard. So, okay, all right, enough ragging on that one. Let's get Freedom out here. So Freedom is the other game that actually used the Gamegenic Token Silo XL inside of. And this one was not a giant empty box. This one had a little cardboard insert that I removed. And as you can see, what I did here is I essentially used the long one to store all of the wooden bits and pieces that I think you would use to kind of count for your runaways or the people you're trying to escort out of the of slavery for the theme of this game. And so that worked out for this one. Some coins mixed in here because they just fell in there. And that's also another thing I think is important to point out, is that the snugness of the tops of this tray are not as snug as you might want them. So you'll definitely have situations to where, oh my gosh, you definitely have situations to where the pieces are going to end up like kind of migrating over to the next area. You saw the cards were kind of sliding around in there. And that's mainly because the top that goes on here, once you put it on there. So it's on there, but it still kind of bows. So if you look at that, you can kind of get it to bow a little bit. It's a little hard to see. So you can get it to bow a little bit, and then pieces like again, this little cardboard token is starting to migrate down, and this little coin, oh, there it is. This little coin is starting to decide to go that way, and the cards are just flopping around. That can be very distressing. For me, it's not that big of a deal because it's usually just like a few pieces. And relative to kind of keeping everything in plastic bags, it saves me from having to open up a billion plastic bags. And relative to how messy it could possibly get, it's still less messy than having all your pieces mixed into one container. Although I guess on a long enough timeline, everything could be mixed in one container if you just let it fly around like that. But for this one, it works out pretty well. I got all my pieces here. I got my money that I use. I put my own coins in here. Got the wooden cubes I talked about before. I got the cards inside of this sitting there, and that just kind of works out there. So, oh, and the rest of the stuff is just there. It's down at the bottom of the box there. So, boom, look at that. So that is the Gamegenic Token Silo XL. I do want to just kind of again, kind of call back to the fact that the size of the Gamegenic Token Silo XL is one of the biggest drawbacks for it. I do have a few of these Gamegenic Token Silo XLs that I purchased over time. Again, I said for Steller Horizons 2, I use 2 of them, which is why I have a spare one. I have another one that I use to kind of hold on to all my coins, my metal coins on the side here. I don't have to hold it this way. This is actually not very organized because I've gone through and pulled pieces from this Gamegenic Token Silo and just kind of consolidated the large pieces. The large bits is, and what I mean by that is like these super long ones. And is there a coin in here? It's not sitting. It's not sitting flush. Why is that? That's so weird. Huh. I guess the plastic, just plasticking because there's heavy metal coins inside of it. But essentially, yeah, because I had a few of these lying around, I was able to kind of customize my other Gamegenic Token Silos that I do use for stuff. And this one just stores coins. Here's the big issue that I pointed out before about the super long ones. The super long ones are very hard to use, and they can only fit inside of this or the Gamegenic Castle, which I'll do a separate video about after this. But essentially, oh gosh, essentially, oh no. Also, that's another issue. While we're here live, these are pretty tough to close sometimes. So the plastic is kind of doing the like the bowing out thing. You can see that. And in order for me to kind of get it to click in, is like when I click it in, it's not gonna like just fight the fact that it's actually flexing that way. So I had to kind of bend them in quite a bit and just do that. Oh, hello. Good evening. Good evening, the metaphysician. Oh, and for those who don't know, I do live stream on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/CulBlu. That's CULBLU. So feel free to check me out there. But yes, I'm just reviewing the Gamegenic Token Silo XL because it's a video that I haven't done, despite having done a review of the original. And then the other one that I use, I have, again, another one on the side. This one is eventually I'm going to do a video where I rank all of the clinic expansions or modules. So I kind of made a little cutout of all of them and stuff, but this is just kind of just holding stuff, holding documents inside of it, not really being used to anywhere near its full potential. But the primary thing I'm trying to point out though is that the Gamegenic Token Silo XL ends up finding less use than I would really want it to find when I use it for different board games. And the main reason for that is that, you know, it's just it's just hard to use it because it just doesn't fit in boxes. Just to kind of belabor the point, because why not? I do have a few other games here that I wanted to show for the Gamegenic Token Silo original. Again, just kind of one of the bigger arguments for the whole thing. And actually, I'll just show Sankore and Hegemony. I'm not going to bring out this. So Sankore, it kind of fits in there. And if I bring out Sankore, you'll see that the Gamegenic Token Silo original, the small one, not the XL, fits pretty well there. And hello, Legends DM. Hello. If I go down into here, you can kind of see everything fits. I had to do some sorcery to kind of get it all to fit. So I'm just pretty happy about it. Again, there's a little cube for me thing, but the Gamegenic Token Silo original fits right there. And that's, again, one of the benefits of having one that's this small. I would argue if Gamegenic made a smaller one than the Gamegenic Token Silo original, I would definitely be into that. I can definitely see that being useful. It is a little bulky when it gets smaller, because again, you only have, was it 16 grids is what I counted? Because there's 4, and there's 4 of these, so 16 different squares that you can work with. And you're kind of stuck in that system, but this ended up working out for this box, for Sankore, and I'm able to get it all stored in there without any box lift, mainly because of, again, Cube for me coming to save the day with its little tray there. It's the star of the show, clearly. I put some pieces inside of bags here, and I gotta make a lasagna board game pieces, but it'll all work out. There we go. And everything kind of fits in there. Again, another huge knock against the Gamegenic Token Silo XL. And then finally, in situations to where I need more storage, I'm going to use Hegemony as my example, but both Hegemony and Revive, where I had the expansion for, both Hegemony and Revive have 2 Gamegenic Token Silos inside the box. First and foremost, let me just show the box lift. So there is some reasonable box lift here. And again, this is counterpoints against the Gamegenic Token Silo XL. There's a reasonable amount of box lift here. It's not the, it kind of annoys me, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. And that's mostly because I have deck boxes in here that are standing up instead of laying down to save space. So, you know, I'm gonna have whatever amount of box lift that this invites, that this introduces, because it is literally just standing up in there. But inside of this box, because this box is so huge, I am able to fit 2 Gamegenic Token Silos. And again, I mentioned before that the Gamegenic Token Silo XL, at the top of the video, I mentioned that it looks like it is double the size of this small one, but that is not true. 2 of these small ones are slightly longer, like very small, like maybe that amount longer if you put them side by side. And for, you know, games where you would need that, again, in this case, I have 16 here, 16 here, squares for me to store stuff in, and I'm counting squares as just one of these as a square. Sorry, one of these as a square. So this is 2 squares, this is 4 squares, so doing math. Yeah, so I have 16 different compartments, 32 different compartments to work with on this one, whereas on this one, each of these squares ends up being 15 and 15 for the half, so 30 total. So I have less storage on the bigger one is what I'm trying to say, versus 2 of these. And that's considering that the price, again, I'll mention the price again, the price for the Gamegenic Token Silo Originals are about $15, and the price for the Gamegenic Token Silo XL is about $30. I usually find it for about $27, $28. And it just doesn't feel like it's worth it in the long run, because it's hard to store stuff in it, and Gamegenic Token Silos themselves are pretty expensive. $15 for as much storage as you get with this, when you can just use sorry, I just went shopping here. When you can just use you can use something like Geek Boxes, or even the Q for Me stuff. These Geek Boxes are $3.39 from the store that I got them from earlier today, and these kind of store there. So, you know, they have different sizes of these ones. Or you can just use plastic bags. I mean, plastic bags are the unsung heroes for a lot of the storage things. And deck boxes, these deck boxes, I think these ones, no, I didn't buy these. I bought the slim ones. Yeah, I don't know the price of these ones, but these are definitely no more than $5. So yeah, hard sell is what I'm trying to say, hard sell. I really do want to love the Gamegenic Token Silo XL a lot, but it's hard to love it, mainly because of the situation that I mentioned before, where it's just slightly too big to fit in most boxes. Actually, I don't think it can fit in this box. Yeah, it cannot fit in this box, because this box for Hegemony is pretty tall, and is pretty large in general. But you can see the Gamegenic Token Silo XL, there's about that much. Sorry, it's hard to see. I'll bring it up there. About that much. Okay, that's a horrible way to look at it. Yeah, there's about that much that is sticking out. So it ends up not being big enough. And again, I think Gamegenic can solve this problem by cutting off one column. But if they cut off one column, then what's the value sell? What's the value proposition of this one over that one? And so, again, a hard sell. I have 5 of them. So clearly not a hard enough sell for me to not buy them. But my problems with spending money aside. Yes. Oh, sorry. Looking at the chat here, Legends DM says, I know Time Ruler loves plastic bags, LOL. And I have the Geek Boxes in the original Gamegenic Silos. Yes. So the Gamegenic original, great. Again, still a hard sell. $16. I want to acknowledge $15 is still a lot of money to pay for a single storage thing when you have Geek Boxes that exist out there, or plastic bags that are not free, but basically out there. But also, yeah, it ends up being a size issue, and I don't know what the full solution for the problem is. Like I said, I propose removing a column, but then you lose out of the 30, you end up with 25 versus 16, so you get 9 more. So how do you price that? How do you position that to be useful? I think cutting the Gamegenic Token Silo Originals in half would be pretty cool, because I would love to see like a little smaller one, like a little mini one you can kind of put in there. That would be pretty nice. And yeah, it's just a few. I know what's the phrasing? It's a few plastic trays short of being useful, or a few plastic trays excessive of being useful. I don't know the proper way to say that. Anyway, So that's going to be the Gamegenic Token Silo XL. I do think it's a reasonable thing to get if you do need some kind of bigger storage. And I do also think the Gamegenic Token Silo XL makes a lot more sense if you do use a lot of the Gamegenic Token Silo smaller ones. And the reason why I say it makes a lot of sense is because you can actually cannibalize this. Like, use the different pieces that are in here for your other one. And they're all compatible, with the exception, of course, of the super long one. But they're all compatible with each other as far as the trays that are included inside of this. So you end up getting a good number of trays, and that's also considering the fact that Gamegenic does sell these, because I had a few of these Gamegenic Token Silo card add-ons. I think it usually sells these for like maybe $6. I think anything more than that is a little bit ridiculous for what it is. But with these, essentially what these are just essentially 2 of the mini American style trays that they give you, and then 1 large tray. I wish Gamegenic would sell one with just a bunch of small trays instead of just this combination, because this combination is neat, but I don't need this, and I'll probably just need this. So maybe give me 4 of these instead of, I don't know. It's very strange market positioning. Let me just say it that way. But maybe this video will be helpful. Maybe this video will get around, and maybe Gamegenic will say, "Oh shoot, that CulBlu was spitting." I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so ultimately the Gamegenic Token Silo XL, I like it, I want to love it, but I can't fully love it. I do have a number of these, and I don't think I'm going to get any more unless I have a Borkin that really needs them. But even in those situations, I think the competition that exists kind of makes it a hard sell overall. So Gamegenic Token Silos Originals, huge fan of these. Again, these are still pricey. I want to continuously acknowledge that, because I need for everybody to understand spending $15 for a single storage solution that can't store everything, it's a little bit ridiculous. I just want to make sure I'm grounding myself, despite the fact that I'm so committed to storage in my stage in the hobby here. But also the Gamegenic Token Silo XL becomes worse of a deal, because it's just hard to put in boxes. So there you go. That's my review of after having all these things. And feel free to say I'm biased, feel free to say whatever, but that is going to be pretty much it for that one. Hopefully that was useful for those who wanted to know, hey, what's the dealio, what's the rub on the Gamegenic Token Silo XL? Overall, if I had to give it a ranking out of 10, first, giving a ranking of the Gamegenic Token Silo Original out of 10, I would give this a solid 7. If I had to give this one a ranking, I would have to give it, unfortunately, a 4. Because it's just, again, all the things I listed add up, and it ends up dropping at quite a number of points, so. Maybe the next one, Gamegenic, I don't know. Speaking of the next one, I will also do a video of the Gamegenic the Gamegenic Castle, because I do have one of those. And again, I think that kind of makes this a reasonable proposition again, but we'll talk about it in a separate video. But for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and close out this video. So thank you all very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. And as always, I will see you all whenever.